folks today?
Fine.
Good, good. I am Jeremy Johnston. I'm the curator of the Buffalo Bill Museum. And on behalf of the Buffalo Bill Cener of the West, I want to welcome all of you today to this special presentation. Someone just asked me if we do this for everybody, and no, we don't. You are indeed a special group, so you're going to have very rare access to some objects that are not currently on display. These are directly from our vaults, and we'll talk about these items. And then towards the end of the presentation here, we should have a few minutes. If you wish, you can come walk around. Please stay on the other side of the ropes here, and you can take photos of these items. Just to caution you, Linda, my assistant Linda Clark, and I are not wearing these fancy white gloves just to impress you. So these are very rare objects, and we wear these to prevent any oil from our hands or any dirt from our hands to get onto these objects. So when you please come through here, if you would, just refrain from touching. Keep your hands on the other side of the ropes there. So, anyway, a little bit about myself. I grew up here in Wyoming. Buffalo Bill's Wild West was tremendous at publicity. And these posters, you'll see this one here, and then there's a lot upstairs in the Buffalo Bill Museum. These posters would have been plastered all over communities the Buffalo Bill's Wild West was performing. So you can imagine walls in these towns just covered with all of these posters here. These are extremely rare because this is F Cody was quite a flamboyant showman. And I know a lot of people think, well, he was more showman than he was frontiersman. But really what sets Cody apart is he was both. He was a tremendous frontiersman. He won the Congressional Medal of Honor as a scout. He participated in a number of conflicts on the plains here in the Indian Wars. He was considered by the leading generals like General Sheridan to be one of the best scouts of the plains. But as a showman, he was quite flamboyant, and he had this flair for drama. So what we see through Buffalo Bill's Wild West is really the beginnings of what we would see played out later on over and over again on the silver screen and on television. Some of those iconic images we have of the American West, the attack of the Deadwood stagecoach by Indians, the attack of the homesteaders' cabins by Indians. Pony Express, keep this in mind when you go upstairs. The Pony Express, anyone care to venture a guess how long the real Pony Express existed? 18 months. Yeah, you guys are smart. Wow. We gotta watch ourselves. They may catch us on some of these. So we'll go to the accurate version here. So, but yeah, it only lasted for 18 months. There's a lot of debate as to whether or not Cody rode for the Pony Express. And bottom line is we'll never be able to prove he was a rider for the Pony Express. There are no business records. We have no canceled checks. We have no contracts. We have no payroll ledgers that show William F. Cody was employed as a young man for the Pony Express. But I think we do need to give Cody credit for making the Pony Express this iconic image of the American West. Now, this was played out over and over and again in his Wild West presentations. By the way, he never called it a Wild West show. It was always an exhibition or Buffalo Bill's Wild West. He considered this to be an educational opportunity, not a circus-like performance. But just to show you how much he's changed American culture and how it still impacts us to this very day, some of you may recall a television program back in the 1990s called Young Riders. Young Riders was this television program. It had people starring as Buffalo Bill Cody, Wild Bill Hickok. So that show, that television show, was on the air longer than the actual Pony Express existed, which I think is quite telling. Now, flamboyant showman, if you can, imagine yourself back in the 1880s, 1890s, watching Buffalo Bill Cody perform, and just to show you how dramatic he could be, he would come riding into the arena wearing a coat very much like this. This is quite a mix of cultures. It's made out of leather, buckskin. The beadwork was probably completed by one of the show Indians. Buffalo Bill, unlike later Hollywood films, did not hire white actors to play American Indian roles. He went to the Pine Ridge Reservation, recruited many American Indians to participate. And by the way, they were paid fair wages, and for them this was a great opportunity to travel and see the world and get off of the reservation and send money home to the people, to the families, the loved ones there. But anyway, the beadwork was probably completed by American Indians. This flamboyant style here, I really believe this was adopted by Cody during the border conflict of the 1850s. When you have people like Bloody Bill Anderson and Quantrell, Kansas and Missouri fighting amongst each other in the 1850s on into the Civil War. Templar. We have his Knights Templar sword here. So when you come up, you'll see his name is engraved on the blade there. We also have the scabbard here. But we believe Cody used some of these connections through these fraternal organizations to open up some doors, which was very important. Keep in mind, Buffalo Bill's Wild West employed 700, let's height, 700 employees. That's actors, cooks, vets to take care of the livestock. They had horses, bison. You had people setting up the tents. You had all this food that needed to be prepared for these people. So it was really quite an undertaking. In a lot of cases, for example, the 1900s tour, they were visiting hundreds of communities. They would appear one night, pack up, go to the next community, move on, set up again, and do that over and over again. And really having those connections for food, feed for the livestock was quite important. Another side of Cody, he was very cosmopolitan. A lot of people assume he was just the frontiersman, but he did have a flair for high fashion. Made for him at Savile Row in London by Henry Poole and Tailors. This jacket recently went on tour. It was in the British Embassy for a private exhibition. In fact, Linda had the privilege of escorting Buffalo Bill's. She couldn't escort Buffalo Bill, but she did get to escort Buffalo Bill's coat to the British Embassy in Washington, D.C. National treasure. Hold that up, Linda. Anyone guess what this particular item is?
It's like a flight jacket or something?
What's that?
Flight jacket, it looks like.
It is a flight jacket. Anyone care to venture a guess as to whose flight jacket?
I'm gonna guess the Wright brothers. Or
The Wright brothers?
Or were they like were they before when this happened or after? I don't know.
About the same time. They were contemporaries of Buffalo Bill Cody. Buffalo Bill Cody was born in 1846. The Mexican War broke out shortly after his birth, and then he passed away in 1917 as America was entering World War I. So, yeah, he was a contemporary. He's seen a lot of technological changes, such as airplanes. But this one is a little later than the Wright brothers.
Lindbergh?
Not Lindbergh, you're close.
Howard Hughes?
Lady Lindbergh.
Ah.
Amelia Earhart.
Oh, Amelia Earhart.
You are looking at Amelia Earhart's flight jacket. So, how did Amelia Earhart's flight jacket end up in Cody, Wyoming? Because I assume many of you never imagined you'd see this here. Well, the story. Amelia Earhart, before her last flight, she spent a lot of time in the Meeteetse, Wyoming area with a guide by the name of Carl Dunrood. Carl Dunrood had a resort, a ranch, and he would guide dudes through the Grable River Valley. She came to this area and she fell in love with the region. In fact, she commissioned Carl Dunrood to build her a cabin in the Meeteetse area, fully intending that she would come back and spend more time here in Wyoming. For some reason, we're not exactly sure why, before she left on her last flight, the flight that she disappeared over the Pacific, she sent this garment to Carl Dunrood for safekeeping. She told him to hold on to this. He did, and lo and behold, she never made it back, and so he ended up with the coat. We understand that Carl Dunrood's wife frequently wore that on horseback rides and around the ranch. As you can see, it'd be a good ranch coat. A lot of protection there. But anyway, the Dunrood family eventually donated this to the Buffalo Bill Museum.